Florida governor calls for mass evacuation. Here's how many must leave in 24 hours. 21 million people live in the state of Florida. And just over a quarter of them have been told to evacuate immediately. On Friday, the Florida governor Rick Scott, the state's administration, and emergency officials asked 5.6 million people to evacuate ahead of Hurricane Irma. Scott said Irma will be devastating, with the 5 to 15-foot storm surge in southwest Florida. You can't survive this. I tell everybody, if you're in the evacuation zone anywhere in our state, you've got to get out now, Scott said. We're not going to spare any expense. But you've got to be prepared and you've got to evacuate, Scott said, adding that the state has done everything in its power to create shelters. You can rebuild your house. You can get your possessions. I can rebuild your life. I can rebuild your family. So think about everybody in your family.
So here now is the governor of Florida, Rick Scott, and I just want to tell everybody we've got a bit of a delay in our audio signal, which is the least of the problems that Florida is facing right now, but we'll deal with that. Governor, good evening to you. Your thoughts as we listen to this forecast, and it looks like it's going to slam into the Keys. Look like they are really going to get hit hard. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, Martha, this is a devastating storm. I'm so concerned. We've got this unbelievable storm surge. It's going to really pound the Keys to start with, and then now you see as it's tracked a little bit west, the storm surge on the west coast is going to be, 5 to 10 feet. I mean, think that's your entire first floor of your house, and this is a rolling water coming in. It flushes in and it flushes out. You can't survive this. So I tell everybody, if you're in the evacuation zone anywhere in our state, you've got to get out now. And if you're in the southern part of our state, don't get on the highway after midnight. You'll never make it where you want to go. We're opening up shelters. We'll do everything we can to keep yourself safe. We're not going to spare any expense, but you've got to be prepared and you've got to evacuate.
Yeah. We are hearing some mixed stories about whether or not that's happening. Some of the folks that I spoke with today talked about there still being a lot of people on the beaches and different places around. But I got the impression from you when you were talking earlier that you feel like people are getting out. They are evacuating. How is it?
Well, you can see our highways. I mean, if you go highways, all our evacuation routes all the way up to north. We've got a lot of cars on there. The traffic is flowing. Our big issue has been to keep fuel on our roads so our cars can keep moving. So that's a positive. But especially remember this track was an East Coast track. Now it looks like a West Coast track. So I think some people might have been complacent. So I traveled to 3 cities today. I just left Fort Myers about 3 hours ago. And my message is, if you're in the evacuation zone, you've got to get out. We're opening up shelters all across the state. We're going to continue to open up shelters. We're going to do everything we can to keep you safe. But just think about it. You can rebuild your house. You can get your possessions. I can't rebuild your life. I can't rebuild your family. So think about everybody in your family.
I heard you today saying that you're a dad and you're a grandfather and you're concerned about your family. You wanted to convey to everybody that they need to look at it in that kind of personal way. How would they feel if they didn't do what they need to do right now? And we want to encourage everybody to listen to you. You've been unequivocal in your explanation and your determination that they absolutely need to go. In terms of gasoline and fuel, there has been a lifting of some restrictions to allow more to go your way, right?
Absolutely. I want to thank the White House. I want to thank FEMA, EPA, Department of Energy. They've all lifted restrictions. Other states have helped us get more fuel in here by also lifting restrictions. But we have struggled all week to get enough fuel into the state. As you know, Harvey didn't help. The issue that they dealt with there. And so we're working hard to get fuel in. I'm doing law enforcement escorts to get the fuel from the depots to the gas stations. But our ports are starting to close. And so we won't be getting more fuel in until after this storm.
How do it looked like an eastern track. Now they're saying a western track up the side of Florida. Do you move resources from one side to the other? I mean, that must be pretty tough.
Here's what's really hard, Martha. typically a storm will come from one way or the other. So then even in the state you can share resources. This one it's engulfing our entire state. It's wider than our entire state. So we're pre-positioning utility assets, pre-positioning law enforcement. I've called up 7,000 members of the National Guard. But it's always harder when this keeps changing, because this is an emergency and you're responding every day, every second. We do calls with all of our county emergency management teams twice a day, and we just solve their problems as they happen. And we try to get it in advance, but this one's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, there's the struggle that you're going through right now, the before, and then, as we all know, there's going to be the after, where you're just going to be putting out fires, so to speak, in all of these areas. Governor, thank you very much for getting your message out with us here tonight, and we continue to tell people the message that you're giving them, and that is, if you're watching this, we hope that you are not in southern Florida and that you've moved your way north, and if you haven't, you need to do that now. Governor, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. We'll speak with you soon.